Should Wizard Hit Mommy by John Updike. John Foyer Updike was an American novelist, poet, short story writer, art critic, and literary critic. One of the only three writers to win the Pulitzer Prize for fiction more than once. Updike published more than 20 novels, more than a dozen short story collections, as well as poetry, art, and literary criticism, and children's books during his career. Hundreds of his stories, reviews, and poems appeared in the New Yorker. He also wrote regularly for the New York Review of Books. His famous work is his Rabbit series. Now, this story deals with certain moral issues and with the adult complexes that clash with childish innocence. Father Jack tells story to his daughter Jo, influenced by his own childhood experiences, failures, and complexes. On the other hand, his daughter lives in her own world of fantasy and doesn't want to come out of it. She feels the pain of being rejected by the playmates when Roger Skunk is rejected due to his bad smell. The story highlights the point that the children also have their egos, identities, views, and attitude. The ending of the story also highlights the fact that the children must understand that one must accept one's identity and gracefully accept the way we are created by God. So, if we say it in a nutshell, the story raises certain issues. Firstly, the difference in the perspective of a child and an adult. Secondly, what should be the mode of parenting. Third, importance of individuality and identity. And fourth, pain of discrimination. So as we will complete with the story, we will again discuss about these issues which have been raised in this story. Now, the story is actually a story within a story. Now, in the evenings and for Saturday naps like today's, Jack told his daughter Jo a story out of his head. Now, this storytelling custom began some 2 years back when she was 2 years old, and uh, Jack now felt completely empty of ideas. Majority of his story was with the same structure. There used to be a Roger creature. Sometimes it would be Roger fish, Roger chipmunk, or Roger squirrel, which always had a problem. And it always went first to the wise old owl. The wise old owl directed him to the wizard. The wizard would listen to his problem, solve his problem, ask for money, and Roger Skunk would always be left with the money. But then the wizard himself would show him the way of getting the money, and then Roger Happy would be happy, and then he would come back, play games with other creatures, and then went home to his mother just in time to hear the train whistle that brought his daddy home from Boston. Jack described their supper, and the story was over. Now, working his way through this scheme was especially fatiguing on Saturday because Joe never fell asleep in naps anymore, and knowing this made the ride seem futile. The purpose was to make the girl go asleep, but now it was all useless. This little girl who was no more little anymore. Uh, when he entered the room, he saw her. She had arranged herself, and she was eagerly waiting for that custom, that ritual to begin. And looking at her, Jack had a feeling that his story was not going to make any effect. Uh, so, but then story had to be told, so he asked, "Who shall the story be about today?" Roger, she just closed her eyes as if she was thinking, and then finally came up with the answer: skunk. Ah, new animal. They must talk about skunks at nursery school. Having a fresh hero momentarily steered Jack to creative enthusiasm. Now this skunk is a very foul-smelling creature. It has received this particular thing. Whenever it senses some danger, it releases some fluid which is very bad in smell, and that is actually a defense mechanism provided by nature to the skunk to save itself from the predators. So this was a different kind of animal, different type of animal, and Jack was full of enthusiasm. And so he began with the story. Once upon a time in the deep dark woods, there was a tiny little creature by the name of Roger Skunk, and he smelled very bad. Now, till this part, even the girl knew that the skunk smelled very bad. But then the later part she had not thought about, and that was when Jack continued the story that he smelled so bad that none of the other little woodland creatures would play with him. She had not thought about this. And then Jack continued, remembering certain humiliations of his own childhood. In fact, here we see an autobiographical element of John Updike himself. When he was small, he had some f- problem related to his physical abilities, and he was always at the receiving end, and his mother was always a great support to him. So Jack, he remembered some of his humiliations of his childhood. He said that whenever Roger Skunk would come out, all the other tiny animals would cry, "Here comes Roger Stinky Skunk," and they would run away. And Roger Skunk would stand there all alone, and two little round tears would fall from his eyes. The corners of Joe's mouth drooped down, and a lower lip bent forward as he traced with a forefinger along the side of her nose the course of one of Roger Skunk's tears. Now, here we see, while the story was told and while the story was listened, both father and daughter, they were completely involved through various actions and gestures in the entire story. And as we know that at this particular part, the Roger creature used to go to wise old owl. So the little girl asked, "Won't he see the owl?" she asked in her high and faintly roughened voice. Now, sitting on the bed beside her, Jack felt the cover tug as her legs switched tensely. He was pleased with this moment. He was telling her something true, something she must know, and had no wish to hurry on. He was going to tell something real, something related to life, and he did not want to hurry with the story. But at the same time, he also knew that he had to go down to help his wife Claire paint the living room woodwork, that is for. But he continued the story. He walked along very sadly and came to a very big tree, and in the tip top of the tree was an enormous wise old owl. "Mr. Owl," Roger Skunk said. He informed Owl that all other creatures ran away from him because he smelled very bad. Owl said yes, he smelled really very bad. Roger Skunk started crying. Now, at this point of time, the owl always directed Roger Skunk towards Wizard, and the little girl knew about it. "The wizard, the wizard," she shouted. And that was a little disturbance for Jack. Now, just imagine a situation where you are telling story or something to a group, and from the group someone says that, okay, this is what happens next. That annoyance, you can just realize how much Jack would have been annoyed. And so he immediately says, "Now, Joe, Daddy is telling the story. Do you want to tell the story? Do you want to continue telling the story, or you want me to continue the story?" Girl said, "No, you continue." And then he asked her to lie down and feel sleepy. And he started saying the story. Well, the owl thought, and at last he said, "Why don't you go see the wizard?" And at this point, again, the little girl asked question. "Daddy," he said, "what? Are magic spells real?" Now, this is something Jack had observed in the recent times, that a different phase, that when he said that spiders eat bugs, she looked toward her mother for confirmation. And when his wife Claire told her that God was in the sky all around them, she turned to her father and insisted with a sly yet eager smile, as if asking for a confirmation, "Is he really?" Now, what is this phase? This phase is the growing up phase, when a child does not accept everything as it is being told. And initially, what happens when when the child is very small? Whatever is being told, it is accepted without any question or argument. But as the child grows, that reasoning and everything that starts developing, starts finding answers in different way by inquiry and by being inquisitive. So she asked, "Are the magic spells real?" He said, "They are real in the stories." And then he started saying that Owl gave the direction, and according to the direction, Roger Skunk walked through the river, over the creek. There will be Wizard's house, and the Roger Skunk, walking and walking, finally came in the middle part of the jungle and the forest, and he came to a little house, and he rapped on the door. Now, this particular portion was favorite of Jack because he really liked speaking in the tone of the old man. He felt that being old and dramatic suited him. So he copies Wizard's voice. Hey, what is it? What you want? You smell awful. So something like an old man. Ah, Roger Skunk said yes. He knew he smelled very bad, and that was the reason. All the other animals they ran away from him. The wise all had sent him to him. He said, Wizard said, okay, uh, come inside, but don't come too close. And now Jack describes the inside of the house. Now inside Joe, there were all these magic things, all jumbled together in a big dusty heap because the wizard did not have any cleaning lady. Everything was dusty because there was no cleaning lady working at wizard's house. The little girl asked why. Why? Because he was a wizard and a very old man. So generally what happens is that the young kids, little kids, they generally associate death with the old age. And when Jack said that he was a very old man, she immediately asked the question, will he die? No, wizards don't die. Then he searched and finally found an old stick called a magic wand and asked Roger Skunk what he wanted to smell like. Roger Skunk thought and said, roses. Yes, good, said Joe smugly. Now, Joe was happy because she felt now the smell would be changed and Roger Skunk would be accepted by other animals. Jack fixed her with a trance-like gaze as if he was going to perform some magic and chanted in the wizard's elderly, irritable voice. Abracadabra, hocus poo, Roger Skunk, how do you do? Roses, boses, pull an ear, Roger Skunk, you never fear, bingo. To something like a mantra or something like a spell, he read out. Now this word abracadabra is not is a word which is used by magicians all over the world, and it has a meaning. And it means that I create while you see, and that is what is being done by a magician. The magician creates illusion in front of our eyes. He paused as a rapt expression widened out from his daughter's nostril, forcing her eyebrows up and her lower lip down in a wide, noiseless grin, an expression in which Jack was startled to recognize his wife feigning pleasure at cocktail parties. At this time, Jack was a little shocked to see the expression on the face of his daughter. The expression was not a genuine one, not a natural one. It seemed to be artificial, as if feigning. See, he feels that it was similar to that of his wife feigning, pretending pleasure at cocktail parties where she was actually bored. And so again, this is a growing up phase. As we grow, we become more and more artificial. And all of a sudden he whispered, the whole inside of the wizard's house was full of the smell of roses. Roses, Roger Fish cried, and wizard said very cranky, that will be 7 pennies. At this moment again, the little girl interrupts, Daddy. He says, what? Roger Skunk. You said Roger Fish, and that shows that the little girl was very attentive with the story. Jack had made a mistake. In the flow of the story, he had said Roger Fish, but actually he was telling the story of Roger Skunk, and the girl points out towards this fact. Yes, Skunk, you said Roger Fish. Wasn't that silly? Very silly of your stupid old daddy. Okay, where was I? Well, you know about the pennies. Say it. He said that no, he should continue. Okay, Roger Skunk said, but all I have is 4 pennies, and he began to cry. Joe made the crying face again, but this time without a trace of sincerity. No naturalness on that gesture. And Jack was annoyed. Downstairs, some more furniture fumble. Claire shouldn't move heavy things. She was 6 months pregnant, and it would be third. So the wizard, because while he was telling the story, at the back of his mind, there was a constant thought that he has to go downstairs and help his wife. So the wizard said, "Oh, very well. Go to the end of the lane, turn round 3 times, and look down the magic well, and there you will find 3 pennies. Hurry up." So Roger Skunk went to the end of the lane, turned round 3 times, and there in the magic well were the 3 pennies. So he took them back to the wizard and was very happy and ran out into the woods, and all other little animals gathered around him because he smelled so good. So when Roger Skunk now returned, none of the little creatures ran away because he did not smell bad anymore. He smelled of roses, and all the creatures gathered around him and they played various games: tag, baseball, football, basketball, lacrosse, hockey, soccer, and pick up sticks. And then, when it was evening time, they played all afternoon, and when it began to get dark, that was the time when they all ran home to their mommies. So, this was the first part of the story Should Wizard Hit Mommy by John Updike.